Hello friends, my name is Habib. Today we're going to learn how to make football game using Scratch. So first, I'm going to make two sprites. So it will be this one but flipped. Of course, I could have just flipped it using code, but that's just too much work. Blue isn't exactly a good color. Control Z doesn't work. It's not exactly very good. Oh. Make everything here to be blue. Okay, so orange scratch cat versus blue scratch cat. Hooray! So now when flag clicked, forever go down. Of course I want to go down. So first I've got to make the physics engine for this football game. I'll make the ground to be green, as if they were playing outside, or remove the outline. Maybe also remove the outline for this. Okay, I think I should still give it some outline, or it's going to look a bit cursed. So now, currently they just stay there doing nothing. Then I'll make a variable called grv for gravity. I'm going to delete this one and work on this one first. I'll set the gravity to 0.1. So if, and then I'll create a variable called speed y. Then I'll create another variable called speed x. Then I'll create a variable called px for previous x and a variable called py for previous y. Position, that is. Set gravity to 0.1. Set previous x to 0. Set previous y to 0. Set speed x to 0. Set speed y to 0. What we really want is that I will change the speed y by negative gravity, which is just 0 minus the gravity y. So that it can be falling down instead of up. So then once I change the speed y, I'm also going to change the y by the speed y, which will make it to fall down. Of course, what I want is that if it touches sprite 3, which is the floor, set the speed y to 0, but it's still going to be sinking through the floor. So now this is where the previous y is basically the y position before the thing moves. So when it touches the floor, it will set the y to the previous y position. So it basically sets the y to the y position before it touches the ground. Of course, I've got to create a new block called S. Steps. Run without screen refresh. So then S. do it higher. Yikes. You can see that before it touches the ground, it slows down a bit before it touches the ground. So that I'll repeat steps. So set the steps to 10. This time it's going to move speed y divided by steps so now that problem has been fixed. So now I can do the same thing for the x. This is going to be px, is going to be speed x. Of course, this is going to be changed x by. This will be set to x2. This will be set to x2. This will be speed x. So when the game starts, I want it to be in this x position. It's going back for some reason. Speed x, not speed y. Now I'm going to clean up the blocks. Okay, so now we need to add the controls. So the first one, set the speed x to the key right arrow pressed minus the key left arrow pressed. So basically, set the speed x means that if the key right arrow pressed, it's going to be 1, and if the key left arrow is pressed, it's going to be 0 minus 1, which is negative 1. I'm going to multiply this by 10. Oh yeah, and if none of them are pressed, then it's just going to be 0. I'm of course going to multiply it by 10 so that it can be faster. Of course, we need to make a wall for our thing to collide with. I will copy paste this wall over here. Wait, what's happening? It seems to not be going well. This is supposed to be X position. Yikes. This isn't exactly good. So I'll put this over here. Why is it doing like this? Blocks plus. What px, not py? It works. Next, I'm going to remove this cat's whiskers. Sorry. I need to remove this cat's whiskers. So, and then if key space is pressed, set speed y to like -1. Oops, set speed y to 3. It doesn't seem to be working. I wonder why. Whatever, I'm going to put this outside of the thing now. It's working. Also, you can fly, and obviously we don't want to fly. So I'm going to make a variable called touching. It will set the touching to 0. if it's touching sprite 3, that's touching to Y. Else that's touching to X. And by default set touching to, well, no switch. Of course, we also need to check if it's in the air. So if touching sprite 3, if it's touching sprite 3, then it's touching to X. I'm going to have to put an else condition. Sets if it's not touching it on the x-axis, sets it to no switch. And the same here. Set the touching to no switch. Let me just leave it as it is. I'll create a variable called in air for the sprite only. So by default set in air to F for false, and then if speed Y is not equal to 0, then that means set in air to, if speed Y is not equal to 0, then that means it's in the air, so set in air to true. Else, which means if speed Y is equal to 0, set in air to false. Of course, it's changed to if key space is pressed and in air is equal to, and it's not in the air since set speed Y to 3. So for set speed Y to 3 is a measly amount. 3 is a measly amount, so maybe 10 would do better. And of course, I'm going to reduce the size. And reduce the speed. Now we have to make the actual ball. How long is this video? Is getting pretty long. So this here is going to be the ball. Of course, I need to make the ball much smaller because why would they be bouncing such a heavy ball? So I can just copy the code from here to the ball. Clean up. And then, except that I'm going to remove everything that allows us to control the player. I mean the ball. Of course, I'm going to make the ball to be in the center when the game starts. And I also need the ball to be much more floaty. I needed that. If it's doing this, instead of just, well, stopping at once, instead set the speed x to the speed x multiplied by a certain, it's the bounciness, which is 0.8. I'll do the same thing for speed y. Oh. 0.8 is too little, and then 0.3. Doesn't seem to be working. So now I'm going to go to the speed y. Whoa, it's getting. I'm going to remove everything here since we don't need them except for this. Yikes, the value is too much. 0.9. Oh, what would you notice? 0.99. Ah, I forgot. Set y to py. And change y by speed y. Yikes. Oops. Let me change this to negative 0.99. Speed y times 0.99. Let me just change y by speed y. Actually just zips through the floor. Let me divide this by steps. There we go. Now it's finally working. So then I'll do the same thing for the speed x. Touch it to x. That's speed x. So speed x multiplied by negative 0.5, and then change x by speed x divided by steps. Of course, when it touches the player, we want it to be launched by the player. So, I'll make a separate condition. If then it's touching sprite 1, which is the player, set the speed x2. I can go to sensing. I go to sprite 1. It will allow me to access its private variables to the speed x of sprite 1. Let's go to the speed x variable over here. Time it just stops. And also set the speed y to the speed y of sprite 1. Of course, I'm going to multiply these values by like 2. Huh. It seems like when it's touching the floor, it doesn't exactly work. So then here, I'm also going to add or touching sprite 1. Of course, currently the physics work well. But now, I'll make another player. So this other player is just going to be a blue version of the Scratch Cat. Of course, I'll write 160 and -7. And then I'll make this to be J. This is key A minus key D. Then I control the blue Scratch Cat. Oops, it's reversed. I'll change this to touching sprite 1 or touching sprite 4. Because for some reason it's sinking into the ground. Set speed Y to PY. Oh. I meant set no, I meant no, not set speed Y. I meant set the Y position. Set Y to PY. I'm also going to do the same thing. We'll set the X to PX. There we go. Oh, it doesn't seem to be colliding with the blue Scratch Cat. No, I don't know why. Aha. It's only considering sprite 1, so we need to put these separately. If it's touching sprite 4, then do speed X of sprite 4, speed X of sprite 4, and speed y of sprite 4. So now it's pretty hard to play football when you're the only player. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Anyways, that's it for today's video. Hope you enjoyed it. Subscribe to my channel, ObaCode. Bye.